because you have 8 lesions on the brain, so we're diagnosing MS, multiple sclerosis. This is incurable. And I thought, not on my watch. No way is that how my life's going to go. Diagnosis doesn't equal prognosis, and there's many other ways that your life could turn.
In this episode, I spend time with my friend Sue Moore. Sue's life shifted in a significant way after receiving a diagnosis that could have closed things down. Instead, it became a turning point. We talk about rebuilding confidence in the body, finding joy in movement, and how community and small choices can open up an entirely new way of living as we age. Let this episode inspire you as you hear her extraordinary story.
I am me, I'm Sue, and this illness was just a diagnosis. It wasn't me.
Welcome to another guest episode of Midlife Unfiltered. I'm your host, Margit, coach, guide, and cricket-playing yogi, but basically what I really love is people. Today, I'm joined by the extraordinary Sue Moore, a woman whose life and work are a powerful example of what's possible when we choose to listen deeply to our bodies and to trust our inner wisdom. After being diagnosed with MS in 2014, just weeks before she was due to run her first marathon, Sue made a courageous decision to take an active role in her healing. Through movement, mindset, mindfulness, and lifestyle change, she slowly rebuilt trust in her body and went on to complete that marathon less than a year later. Today, Sue supports women in midlife and beyond to rediscover confidence, strength, and joy in their bodies through gentle movement, chair yoga, and community. This is a conversation about overcoming adversity, resilience, autonomy, aging well, and what can unfold when we refuse to shrink in the face of challenge. So, Sue, I'd love to start with where you are now and what you're doing and why it matters so much to you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Margie. And thanks for inviting me on your amazing podcast. So, where I'm at now, I basically support women probably from the ages of 50 to 80 move their bodies, feel confident in their bodies, and have a more calmer, more aligned state. So, I do chair yoga, mindfulness. And I know that in this world, as you know, it's super stressful, super fast. And we don't take enough time to actually stop, listen to our body, and actually bring it back into an aligned state. So that's what I help the women today, both in person, and I will be developing online classes as well.
I'm so excited for that online development of classes because I know the reach that you have with the women you work with now is extraordinary, and to be able to expand that reach beyond just sort of the physical limitations of where you're living and is going to be extraordinary. And I know, so chair yoga, I'm really interested in chair yoga because I know you did your yoga training
Mm.
and you were very drawn to chair yoga. So tell me more about why that's so important to you.
Yes, great question. I was look, I loved not I loved, I actually love practicing yoga. And I noticed that in the yoga studios that I was going to, I call them pretzel shapes in air quotes because well, many yogis are twisted round. And I looked around the room and maybe half, three quarters were able to do those poses. And then I thought, well, what about all the other people would have the benefit of yoga if they weren't like twisting up in a pretzel shape. Um, and also the people, have injuries or basically can't actually get down on the floor. And when I was injured a little bit, I injured my wrist and then a shoulder injury, a knee. I found it difficult even to get into a downward dog. So I thought, gosh, if this is me and I love yoga and I'm motivated to exercise and I feel challenged, what about all the other people? So it started me opening my eyes up to, well, okay, so how can we modify this? And chair yoga is quite a growing modality now. So I basically started adapting the yoga poses where you can actually sit on the chair and, do your warrior poses and your side stretches and then obviously the breathing exercises as well. And then encouraging the ladies to get up and to practice balancing, which in our later life is really important. So we do quite a lot of balancing exercises and strength exercises and adapting, the chair pose in yoga where you're squatting down with your arms up. We can actually adapt that by using the chair as a balancing prop. So I've adapted it for sitting as well as standing, using the back of the chair for a prop, for strength and flexibility exercises. So, yeah, we really have a good time and I love it. Yeah.
No doubt you have a good time. What's kind of the average age of the women who are attending your classes?
Yeah, gosh. Probably I would say from 50 to I've taught a lady who was 92, actually. Yeah. So and that was and obviously, whoever shows up in the room, I just adapt with the energy and what current injuries they're having, the energy levels, and yeah, we just adapt. We have a flow, we have balance, strength, flexibility, as I said, and meditation at the end. So, yeah, it's beautiful. Mm.
Yeah, wow. I find it extraordinary when we think about, a 92-year-old there doing yoga, as it were. And this is perfect sort of for our conversation, right, around aging and our physical body with everything that you've been through.
Mm.
So before we kind of move into that part of your story, because it is extraordinary and very inspiring, I guess what's most meaningful for you in this work that you're doing now?
Gosh, great question. So many levels. I think some of the stories that the ladies that have shared with me already, overcoming anxiety, giving them the courage to um, go out and explore new things. One lady mentioned, and it wasn't just the yoga classes, I think this was just a snippet of a number of other things that are happening in her life. She was on 10 different types of medication, and one day she said she went to a doctor and she said, "That's enough. I'm over it. I'm not having this anymore." And she's just slowly weaning herself off the different medication, and her life, her energy, her zest for life, wearing makeup, it's just that warms my heart. Inviting friends, we've started a beautiful community where the women catch up with others, have coffees, so that's beautiful. And I feel at any stage in our life, but I also think with women um, who might be retired or empty nesters and are looking for a social outlet, and
Mm,
this kind of fills the gap. It's a morning class, it's exercise, it's community, it's not heavy, intense weightlifting, in the gym. So I think I'm reducing any barrier to do exercise or movement. And I feel that if movement is fun, then people will be more inclined to stay with it and keep going. Yeah.
I think that's such an important point.
Yeah.
If movement is fun,
Oh,
people are more inclined to stay with it. And I think that's an absolute truth because, we set these, let's have a talk about New Year's intentions for a moment and
yeah.
how often these fail. And they fail because we're thinking we've got to move, we've got to go, whether it's going for a run or and these things hurt, right? And
Mm,
you do a couple and then you're like, oh, this is hard on my
mm,
body.
mm.
But as you said, when movement's fun, we want to
Yeah.
keep doing it. But I just want to come back to some of these results. And I know you're very humble in the work that you do, but I just want to reinforce what I just heard. Through doing chair yoga and those classes you do, you've seen women who are overcoming anxiety. Like anxiety is a huge issue in our
Mm,
society at the moment. A- And it's not limited to young people. I know we hear a lot about young people, but I think there's a lot of midlife and older, people who are experiencing anxiety. So through chair yoga, and this is a class that's in person.
Mm,
So it's got, as you said, it's got those things around community in
mm,
particular, showing up, getting out of your house, doing those things as well. And then I'm fascinated by that story of the lady who is um, finding her way to get off medication,
mm,
the 10 different types of medication. And I know when we spoke earlier, you said, well, you can't attribute all of that to me.
No,
uh,
totally not. Totally
mm,
not. I think I'm just a small aspect in this lady's life. And um, gosh, just think, just hearing that news, whether I played 1% part in it, I'm just blessed to know that that is possible, and that's a major thing for that amazing lady to
mm.
move forward in her life with confidence. And yeah, and trusting in the body again to heal itself. Yeah.
And
Mm,
and I love that you just said that, trusting the body to heal itself. Again, this is so important. I think it's more important than ever because we're very much in this way of living where we go to the doctor, or you've heard that old saying, doctor's orders, like whatever they say we should
mm,
do.
mm,
And what I'm
mhm,
hearing is this lady is taking her she's taking responsibility for her health
mm,
in the way that's
mhm,
right for her, right? And I want to be really clear, this is not a podcast about where we're providing medical advice. We're
mhm,
providing containers for thought,
mhm,
for things that may or may not be able to be different in
mhm,
people's
mhm,
lives who are
mm,
listening.
yeah.
But I love this, and I think this is a really perfect segue to talk about your story with health,
Mm,
because you, more than probably most people that I know, have had to learn to trust your body to heal itself. So can we talk for a little bit just about your own journey with
yeah.
MS?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Absolutely, Margie. And I'd just like to say at the start that this is my journey, as you preface, that we're not here on this podcast to give health advice. We're just sharing stories that even I suppose my hope or my wish that if somebody could get like a golden nugget from my story, that they can look at it and just say, okay, it's similar to me, or little aspects that they can go and tweak in their life, then that to me is means a lot, rather than saying, I did this, so if you do follow this, then then you'll overcome whatever challenge you're going. So I just want to make that clear. So for me, as you mentioned, in 2014, I was diagnosed with MS. It was 2 weeks out from me running the Melbourne Marathon. So the fittest I'd ever been. I had this massive migraine that lasted for 2 hours. It left me numb down the right-hand side of my body. Um, had hot and cold tingles on my back, and I was unable to feel my right foot. So as you can imagine, Margie, I know
Mm.
that you're a super healthy, athletic person. And if that happened to you, a couple of weeks before a major cricket tournament, that you'd be devastated. Hey,
Mhm.
so I remember going to the GP and who I got on well with, and my GP was also a runner, so he knew the how to put it, like the passion for runners and have a goal as a marathon. He knew that. So I said, look, I just want to know what it is. Tell me what I need to do just so that I can get to the starting line. That was all my focus. I just thought, I put in all this training. I'm going to do it. I was determined. And he
So
said, oh,
this was
no.
this was one migraine. This is one migraine, but it was
Yeah,
way more than a migraine, right? This was your
yeah,
whole body felt like
yeah.
it was shutting down.
Yeah, totally, totally. It
And
started
and
off with a migraine. I remember being at work and excuse the pun, but like when you feel they're just a pain in the neck. I literally
yeah.
had a meeting with somebody and I was just like, "Argh," after the meeting, and I had this pain in my neck. And I just thought, oh, that's interesting. The phrase is beep, beep, beep is a pain in the neck. So I actually had this refer pain. And I thought that's interesting. Then it went to my head and it was I haven't the odd headache every now and then, but not migraines, maybe one or two in my life. So I knew and I just thought, oh, this feels odd. And I
Mm.
was sitting next to my coworker and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh, just got a bit of a headache, or a migraine. I think I'm going to go home." She said, "Sue, you look really white. Are you okay to walk home?" And I said, "I just need fresh air." And it was about a 10-minute walk. So I did. I walked home, went inside, and then I just took 2 Nurofen and just went straight up to bed. My husband came back from work and I said, "Oh, look, I've just got a migraine. I'm just going to sleep it off." And that was that. And then when I woke up from that, as I said, I couldn't feel my leg. Immediate panic in my mind, thinking,
Mhm.
was it a stroke? What's wrong with my body? Why is my body failing me? Will I be able to walk? How am I going to get down the stairs? And eventually, I remember I got out of bed, got downstairs, but it was almost like I was walking. When you have pins and needles, you just can't like feel your bottom of your
Yeah.
foot. So that's what it was like. It was like as if I was walking on air that much with my right foot. I went to the doctors. He said, as I said, fast forward, he said, I don't know what it is. We have to do some tests. So hollowed a blood test. He rang up the neurologist at the local hospital. They advised me not to run because it hadn't been diagnosed and they thought anything could happen on a long 42K run. And then so I cancelled everything. Then a month later, I had a full body MRI scan and then saw the neurologist and he said, "Sue, because you have 8 lesions on the brain, so we're diagnosing MS, multiple sclerosis. This is incurable." So
Hang on, they said this is incurable. That was their words to you.
yeah, they said you've got eight lesions on the brain, and because of that, we're diagnosing MS. And I said, "Oh, multiple sclerosis, what's that?" And then my reference of MS at the time was very limited. In my mind, you received a diagnosis, then you walk with a cane, then you're in a wheelchair, then you're dead. So in my limited brain, that is what I thought the progression of MS was. And I thought, not on my watch. No way is that how my life's gonna go. So when he said it was incurable, but there are many drugs on the market that can help your body from having another attack. But like they might work, they might not work because you might not have an attack. So he was using all these language that say, "Hang on a minute, you're saying me that I've been diagnosed with MS. I might have an attack again, I might not. But then you're going to prescribe drugs that might have an effect or might not." That seemed a lot of probability for me. And in my mind, I thought it just didn't make sense to me. And I'm going to preface this by saying MS, multiple sclerosis, is part of the autoimmune diseases, one of many. And within autoimmune diseases as a whole, they're mainly termed as a snowflake disease. Why is it called this? Is because it's internally. Autoimmune is when your body is attacking itself. So
Mhm.
it's starting to attack healthy cells. So it's under fire. So that's why it's all internal. So what's happening to one person with MS who's been diagnosed with MS might be completely different to somebody else. Some might have physical symptoms, some might not, might all be internal. Um, yeah, so that was that. And I remember at that time, maybe it was my English upbringing. I laugh because it's quite funny because the neurologist must have noticed a change in me. He just slid this box of tissues to me. And I thought, what's he doing? Like, I don't cry. I'm British. I don't cry. And but all this stuff was going in my mind, and then the shock hit, and all I just saw was the neurologist moving his mouth, and it just felt like a sliding door moment, as if it was a bad dream, or you're watching a movie, and then
Mm.
in a moment you'll wake up and it's not real, and then floods of tears, and then I just used the tissues clearly. And I remember my husband Rod at the time, he was kind of asking the questions for me, really. And we wanted to know, well, what about diet? Can diet help? And he said, well, if you eat a healthy lifestyle, and we thought, well, can't you doing all of that and running for a marathon? How much healthier can you get? And I said, so what about cutting out chocolate? Can I still drink wine? And he said, oh, yeah, anything in moderation. And I thought, oh gosh. So that's kind of like not much help there. So it
Mm,
was only really the drugs that they were recommending. So yeah, so that was yeah. I don't know what else to say. It was, I'm smiling now, but looking back, it was,
mm.
it was a horrid thing to go through, and I really feel for anyone who who um who who receives a diagnosis, because you do automatically go into fear, victimhood. Why me? Why is my body breaking down? Like, what can I do? Um, is this the only way? All of these questions, and I think for anyone in that situation, um, I would wholeheartedly invite them to not take the first answer as the only way. There are many different ways to cut a cake, to go from A to B. There are many ways in life. Yeah, even using the example of running a marathon, there's so many different plans. Yoga, you can do physical yoga, you can do um, hatha yoga, you can do Bikram yoga, you can also do chair yoga. So there's many different forms. So
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone who is receiving a diagnosis to look at all of the alternatives.
Yeah. I 100% agree with this. And coming into my mind is even within a simple yoga pose, there's always variations.
Hmm.
We don't have to, there's not one right way to do, well, anything really.
Mm,
So, so you've just been diagnosed with this, and look, I really appreciate you talking about this because I know
mm,
it's reflecting on this part of your life that you have moved past and
mm,
moved through. How long did it take you to sort of come to this acceptance? Okay, because we go through that initial fear, those thoughts that, why me? What have I done? All of those sorts of things. And what am I going to do now? But in between all of that, there has to be this acceptance of, okay, I am as fit as I've ever been in my life.
mm,
Now I have this. And when we come to that place of acceptance, I think then we can open up and go, all right, what alternatives are there? So
mm.
what did it take to get you to acceptance, first of all?
Um, I'll be honest, it took a while. It wasn't just like this eureka moment, oh, I've accepted this. It was this kind of like two steps forward, one step back. I remember, you have the news, you fall in a heap, you feel total victimhood. But then in the same breath, I identified so strongly with being a runner. So my research on Google was, okay, uh, what reference or what evidence can I see online anywhere globally that somebody has been diagnosed with MS and they've still been able to run? Because that was my big thing. Okay, well, um, let me still be able to run. So I did. I found a couple of amazing American ladies who were running, who were diagnosed with MS and still able to run. And as I said, every diagnosis of MS is different. So, but I also stacked that up. I thought, okay, well, that's two references. That's great. Okay. So if that's still okay to be able to run, tick, now I have to figure out a way of how to heal my body without using the medication, because to me it felt like playing Russian roulette with my body, and I didn't want to do. So if I didn't want to play Russian roulette with my body and still appreciated the neurologist and the medical profession, that's right for a number of people, but
Mhm.
internally, my body, it didn't feel right for me. So Sue had to take control of her own life, her own health, and say, okay, take the steering wheel back of your own life, Sue. What's right for you? So then I had to go on a not pilgrimage, a kind of research fact on Google to find out other ways. What other things could I do? Started off with food. Um, amazing lady, Dr. Terry Wars, who overcame MS, and she's got the Wars protocol, which is heavily based on paleo. So I thought, righty ho, I will cut out sugar, grains, dairy, gluten. So they were the four things. Within a week, no joke, Margit, within a week, my brain fog disappeared. I had clarity of mind. Um, and I started to get like feeling back in my leg and my hand as well, because my hand, I'm left-handed. My writing was like a grandma, it's quite spidery. I couldn't like kind of hold the pen. It was a bit like claw-like.
So you
Um,
were still having
so
these symptoms sort of a week, 2 weeks later. It wasn't like it
yeah,
was
yeah,
one
totally.
off. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I started on the food. My big thing was, I love chocolate. So I thought, gosh, don't take chocolate away from me. So this is the part in it's not one or the other. It was almost I had to take a holistic approach, because your nutrition feeds into your mentally. So when I would go out for to a cafe, it was hardwired in my brain to have a cuppa with a cake. But the
Yeah.
cakes, in the dessert thing were all sugar. They were majority gluten. And I thought, oh, righto, or dairy. And I thought, okay. So then mentally I started feeling, oh, now I'm, now I'm going without. So I had to trick my mind in those moments. No, I'm not going without. I'm making a choice for me, for my health, for my body, for my longevity. So I really had to play this battle. So even though overriding it was a nutrition, I had to really very quickly overlay very strong mental beliefs and retraining my brain to believe. And then I thought, okay, so if
Hang
I
on, hang on,
felt
hang on, hang on, hang on. So,
yeah,
because I think this is such an important point, and it's a point that we all need to learn from. I need to learn from this too. This idea that I'm not missing out.
mm-mm,
I'm making a choice that I want to make because I want to experience a different sort of health level in my body. And I know if I have that thing, that it's going to have an impact on me. So,
mm,
but this retraining, you're right. I mean, there's marketing everywhere that tells us, oh, you're missing out if you don't have it.
yeah,
And even when
totally.
you go into a shop, right, and you see they've got these beautiful cakes, and it's like
Mm,
suddenly you're looking for something that's gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. It doesn't
yeah,
leave very much in our traditional sort of world of cafes, right?
totally. Yeah.
So I love that. Did you use any sort of technique, or it was just this? I know you have this determination and stubbornness
Yeah,
within you
I
as
do.
well. Um,
Yeah.
like,
Um,
how did you retrain your brain at that point?
gosh, I can't remember. I remember, uh, I think it was tough. I remember there were times where I would get like upset, I would cry, and then you kind of like you play devil's advocate with your mind and say, oh well, one won't hurt. And I remember having I was out with my husband one time and we had a Devonshire tea. So there was scones, there was cream, there was jam. Oh gosh, I crashed so much. It was almost as if I had three Christmas dinners in one meal. I was just almost like a food coma. I was a mess. So I just thought, oh, okay, well, clearly that's not working then, is it? So, um, I had to choose another path, and I thought I think I just played games with my mind. That was my own way of, okay, well, let's just try it for a week. Let's see how we go. And then you've done a week, then you've built momentum, you've got a foundation, and I'm still alive. I'm still feeling good. Let's go a bit longer, like a month. And then I started, okay, well, how about if I start making desserts at home? How about if I start enjoying the kitchen more? I mean, I love to cook, but like this went to a next level where I would um, make alternatives of my favorite cakes that I would have it going out for cafe or chocolate. I started making like raw desserts. So that's where it made that shift of helping the mindset of two things really. You're taking control of your life. You're putting yourself back in the steering wheel of I'm choosing what's going in my mouth to eat, nutrition. And B, as in what was the second thing? You're actually making things. So you're being creative, and the mindset of I'm not doing without because now I've got this healthy alternative, which I know what the actual ingredients are. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and it's
see.
almost goes from I'm not doing it without, I'm actually doing it my way. More of that, I'm doing it my way. And
Yeah,
and
totally.
I happen to know you make a sensational chocolate now.
Yeah, thank
So-
you. Yeah, it's super simple too. And I think that's a thing. And I think it's yeah, it comes from the heart as well. When you eat it, you know it's with love. So yeah.
Yeah. And doesn't that make a difference? Just that
Yeah.
alone, making, when we cook our meals with love, and I think there's even a taste difference. There's an energetic difference to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Okay, so you've changed your diet.
Yeah.
You've making those changes, albeit sometimes testing some things that didn't work, which is perfect because that's what we do, right? We trial and error. That's how we learn. What else? What else did you need to do? Because I know there's some really important keys of things that you did.
Yeah. So that was nutrition and a bit of the mindset. Getting onto physically, um, which ties into a bit of meditation as well. So physically, I wanted to be in my optimal health, whatever health and vitality is for each and every one of us. It's different. So for me, it was um 2 weeks out from running my first marathon. Like, gosh, I just wanted to see if I could run again, to be able to feel my foot and run, and then to be able to run a marathon. As you know, Margit, when I set a goal, I'm pretty determined and pretty
Hmm.
lasered in. Some areas of my life not so, but for this and for health, it was really just like the bullseye. I'm going to get it no matter what. So for that, I thought, well, this is interesting because I can't even feel my right foot. So if I can't feel my right foot, how on earth am I going to be able to run? So stubborn Sue went to see if I could, and probably in hindsight, probably a bit stupid, really. I went round the block just to see, and I couldn't feel my foot at all. I was running, like mechanically, my arms were moving, but my leg was kind of like it was just kind of throwing forward as best I could. It was almost as if, which clearly was, my signals weren't making it from my brain all the way down to my leg.
So it's more than just not feeling it. So, I mean, when I used to play hockey where I grew up, and in winter we'd play, and it was really, really cold, and we'd go for a 5 kilometer warm up run because we couldn't feel our feet because it was
Yeah.
so cold. And so, but there's a difference, right? Like I'd be running and I felt like I was running on stumps.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that and eventually getting your feeling back, and
Yeah.
under having this understanding that my brain isn't sending a signal to my
Yeah.
foot. That's how it feels. I can imagine
Yeah.
that's completely different.
Yeah, totally. So for that part, again, the mindset is huge and critical, and it's not just one area. What we're touching on here is a holistic. So we've done nutrition. So for mindset, when I was running, I thought, okay, Sue, I love games. I love fun. It's got to be fun for me. So I thought, okay, well, let's turn this into a fun game. Um, and I started, sounds funny. I started playing like choo-choo train. Just so like my hands were going. So in my mind, I thought, okay, well, one leg's going like this, like a steam train. Let's imagine the other leg is part of the steam train too. So so I started thinking from my brain that you are just a train, like a steam train going like that, and try and get that motion as smooth as I could. So rather than like that, it was, and then slowly it got more smoother. So that's what I did over and over and over and over and over again when I was running, to imagine myself as as a train, and my legs were like the pistons of the train of sending the wheels round. So my legs were the wheels. So I did that. Another trick that I used was went right back to the beginning. I scraped it right back to the raw roots of being a beginner runner again, and walking.
Mm.
And I used the distance. I lived in suburbia, so I used the distance of the lampposts. So I would walk from one lamppost to the second lamppost, and then I'd trot from the second lamppost to the third, and then I'll go back walking. So I did walk, jog, walk, jog, walk, jog. And then I built it up from there. So then I could run from the first to the third lamppost and then walk. And then so slowly I built it up, and I thought, okay, well, this is going good. Um, let's just carry on. Another mental shift. I had to believe with every cell in my body that I was a marathon runner. I had to take on the identity of a marathon runner. And again, in my mind, I had to play another game with myself, that this was just, air quotes, this was just a setback. This was just a setback as if I was a marathon runner, or as if I was an Olympic athlete, and this was just a cold or a little illness, or
A broken toe.
yeah, something
Yeah.
that they couldn't train, and then they
Yeah.
had to rebuild back. So I was in the building back phase. And again, to improve my running, there was a local oval, and I did laps of sprints. So again, I imagined that was the worst part of my training, was the actual sprint training. And again, the game I played was, I used to show up at the athletic oval first thing in the morning, and I imagined that I was an athlete, and I'd had my watch, and I would time my sprints and write them down and record. So there is a lot of self-motivation, a lot of pride, a lot of stubbornness, a lot of determination. Um, yeah. Um, and the other big thing for the mindset was, I didn't once identify with the disease. So you hear a lot of people say, I am a fill in the blank, or I have a, and then fill in the blank of the disease. I never identified with that. To me, I am me, I'm Sue. And this illness was just a diagnosis. It wasn't me. Does that make sense? So I
Oh,
feel that the words
yeah.
I am, whatever you put after I am, is so powerful. So positively, you could say, I am a runner, I am a marathon runner. Well, that's empowering. But like, if you add the disease, then all of your cells, they take on that role, that identity. So I knew from all the personal development and um, yeah, that was quite critical. My thoughts become things. So yeah.
Absolutely. And for those who are listening who believe in that, the thoughts become things, that we're powerful creators, because I know you and I certainly do.
Mm, mm,
We have this understanding that our beliefs create our reality.
mm.
And for you to be able to separate uh, this disease that you've been diagnosed with from who you truly are, like, that's quite an extraordinary ability to do. I think there's a lot of people who struggle with that. And I'm just curious if, yeah, and you may not, but is there any just little tips of ways that you were able to keep reinforcing this, I'm a marathon runner, rather than, oh, I have MS, what am I going to do, sort of mindset?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think that's where with the next part of the holistic journey, was meditation. And again, in my desk research in Google, Uh, I smile because you'd identified with this, Margit. You know, when you get certain messages, people say, "Oh, you should read this book," or "You need to hear this podcast or this interview." And I thought, yeah, yeah, yeah. And one of those was a friend, and I thought, gosh, I'm hearing this person's name. This is about the third time, and it was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And beautiful friend Joey, she lent me one of his books. You Are the Placebo. So that was the book, You Are the
Yes.
Placebo. And I started reading that book. The reason why, I looked online and I thought, gosh, Dr. Joe had a um, terrible accident when he was in a triathlon race and spinal injuries. And he overcame that through meditation and knowing so much. He was a chiropractor, knowing so much about the body that he, in his meditations, he imagined his whole spine re-healing from the bottom all the way up. And I thought, gosh, if he can do that, again, stacking the evidence, it's almost like the 4-minute mile. When Roger Bannister first had that goal of running the 4-minute mile, everyone thought he was crazy and you're never going to do it because nobody had done it before. Then when he did it, when he ran, a number of other people now are cracking the 4-minute mile, and it's almost okay. Well, it's just a given that that's what humanity can now do, or some people can do. So I was stacking evidence. So Dr. Joe was one of these stacking the evidence. So I started to meditate. Read the book, I did the meditations, and then I went to one of his retreats, and still focusing on the health. So in the meditations, night and day, I would imagine and mentally rehearse me crossing the 2 meditations, crossing the first one, crossing the finishing line of the Gold Coast Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Second one was returning back to the neurologist and seeing the scans before with 8 lesions, the MRI scan of the brain, and then after 9 months later with none. So they were the 2 meditations that I did, morning and evening, and visualized it and put myself in that scene as if it was actually happening. And the beauty about, as you know, Margit, your mind doesn't know the difference
Mm-hmm.
between imagined and reality. To your mind, it's the same. So if you've got a strong image and you're bringing up all of your senses, you're putting yourself in the scene in your life, you will kind of, how to put it, come across that event. So it's a course set in motion. It just happened. So when both of those events happened, it was like, yes, of course, because I've experienced it so many times, not in an arrogant way. It was still, oh my gosh, this has happened, and so grateful for both of those events.
So that
Yeah,
became an expectation, really. Like, it wasn't a surprise when you went in there because you didn't have in the back of your mind, you weren't going, "Oh, I hope this works." You were your mind and body were fully aligned as you were doing
yeah,
those meditations and as you
yeah.
call it, mental rehearsal. So
Yes.
you were fully in that place of, "No, my body's fine and I'm running a marathon."
Yeah.
Rather than, "Oh, I'm going to mentally rehearse this and hope that happens." So there's
Yeah.
two different stages, and I want to be really clear with people because
Yeah.
a lot of us find meditation and visualization difficult. I love some of Joe Dispenza's work as well. It just kind of takes me to another place. But yeah, I just want to be really clear. You're not doing it wrong. If this isn't your experience, because we're all here for different journeys on this earth. And I know for me, it's really easy to kind of make myself wrong really quickly. Whoa, I'm not getting that result. But I love so much this distinction that you have of, here I am, this is me. I am more than this disease that they have diagnosed me with. And I'm going to set my body, my mind, and my spirit up for success, for this long running success. Because I imagine in that moment of diagnosis, your entire world drops out. It
Mm,
changes, right? Like,
100%.
everything has suddenly changed, and you can't go back to the moment before because now you have this piece of information. And
Mm,
so I imagine at that time too, you had to really redefine what success meant, just even on a daily basis.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think you're so right. You're spot on a number of things. Um, Another thing that I always say, diagnosis doesn't equal prognosis.
Hmm.
So what, and it gets back to the practitioner, what they're saying and recommended is based off all of their experience to date, all of their case studies to date, and in the world that they know. and then you come in here, that might not correlate. It doesn't mean that that is the only way. So I want to be very clear on that. Diagnosis doesn't equal prognosis. And there's many other ways that your life could turn. But it takes work. I'm not just saying it was an easy path. Getting back to the meditation, I kind of felt as well, I had nothing to lose. Nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I'd already received the diagnosis. Everything else that I stacked on top of that was a blessing. Um, so and also, also the meditations for me at the time, it was my happy place. To me, in those meditations for that 1 hour in the morning and in the evening as well, life was good. Life was in this place that I wanted to be, that I was heading to. So I primed my brain with all the research that I did, all the science around meditation and everything. I primed my brain for that event. Then when I woke up, when I got up from the meditation, wasn't all rosy,
Mm.
because there were times where I couldn't feel my foot still. I couldn't even open up a jar with my hand. I had to ask my husband for assistance in the kitchen to fetch things down off the shelves, or to open screw top jars or everything. So yeah, that's that fine balance of that flip-flop of life. You've got this strong vision, and then you come back to this reality in the 3D world, that things aren't as it seems. So there's this bit of the lag, and you just have to keep showing up. I call it act as if. So every day I had to keep showing up as best I could, with compassion for myself and honoring all those emotions that come, and just meet myself where I'm there on that day, with the intention of, I'm showing up today for my running as a marathon runner. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm fueling my body with the best nutrition I can. How am I showing up mentally? What's in my environment? Is it all supporting me for the vision that I'm going to? And if it's not, I I you know culled out a few people and circumstances where I was living, that wasn't supportive to where I was going. Yeah. So I think your support group as well, and your environment. Our environment is critical. Yeah, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's just this, I can just really hear this determination, this willingness
Mm,
to step into the future, the destiny that you wanted, and to not, as you said, not take that diagnosis as the eventual prognosis that this is what's going to happen and this is the way it's going to happen. So I want to ask you, how did it feel when you went back to that neurologist and you saw the scans clear?
Oh, it was amazing. It was just like in the meditations. It was like, but in the flesh. I'd seen it in my mind so many times, but when it was in the flesh, it was like, yeah, it was just amazing. It was so much gratitude for being able to do that. His exact words were, out of the 8 lesions you had, most of them, so this is in a 9-month period. Out of the 8 lesions you had, most of them had disappeared. The 2 that remained have significantly diminished. So that was in 9 months. Then I had kept having scans, and the last scan I had was 5 years after the original diagnosis, and there were no lesions. So,
And so they've told you you've got this incurable disease,
mm,
and then you present like 9 months is like that seems like such a small window, right? 9 months later, you're experiencing, let's call it a reversal or an uncreation, whatever the language is.
mm, mm.
Did they not kind of question, what are we going to do with you? Sorry, you just bumped all of the data that we know. You've just completely shifted our understanding of this
Ye-
disease.
Yeah. my neurologist is an amazing gentleman. I've got a lot of um value from him. What he said was, whatever you're doing, carry on doing it, Sue. It's obviously working for you. And he also did say that they are here, uh, if I need them. So if anything changes, I know where they are. And I said, yeah, thank you very much. Um, so I think there's a fine balance with doing things on your own and also in tandem with the medical profession. I do want to say that, and I do want to make that very clear. I think
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people, especially in our times, that are handing their life over to other people rather than taking a control and a holistic view themselves. So that's on all levels and everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Your nutrition, what are you eating? What are you thinking? Are you guarding your thoughts? What are you looking at social media? What energy is coming in? Uh, mentally, even Netflix, like what are you watching? What's in your environment? Who's your support group? Is it toxic? Is it supportive? And then all of this has an impact on your body. And then I think the other thing that we haven't touched on, which I know that you're really good at as well, Margie, is knowing, so in tune with your body now that you know when it's out of whack. So you know if you're not eating well, you know if your sleep is off, you know if um a person comes in the room that you kind of feel, you kind of like your body
Mm,
kind of feels a bit like this, and you look and you think, "Ooh, yeah, like there's something happening there that you don't want to engage with." Um, so I just became in tune with my body and to know what's working for me and what's not. So for the food, I came off the paleo diet. Now people always ask me, they say, well, what's food do you eat now? I don't really call myself an actual label if I'm a paleo or a vegan or a gluten-free or whatever. So currently now, what I fuel myself with the food that feels right for me. So if you were to call me anything, it would be an intuitive eater.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that means is that if one day, at lunchtime, I want to eat meat, I will eat meat. I rarely have gluten. That's one thing that I stay off. Every now and then I might, but I also know what the consequences are. So I think I think probably I'll be, if you were to say what my diet is now, because people always ask, it'd probably be 95% plant-based, with a bit of feta cheese, halloumi, like the odd meat, the odd fish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you say an intuitive eater. And that really, we only get to be an intuitive eater by doing the other work that you're talking about, the
Mm.
mindfulness, the meditation, um, because it's really easy. I see a lot of people, oh, yeah, yeah, I feel like chocolate. My body wants chocolate, right? And there's nothing wrong with eating chocolate. And there's also, there are times when my body goes, yeah, I would just love a little bit of chocolate. Um, but there's a difference between really tuning in and hearing that hearing that wisdom, that innate wisdom that our bodies have. And I know you're such a huge advocate. I was thinking as you were talking, that idea that you mentioned earlier about, I took the steering wheel, and I think that's such a good metaphor around managing life generally, but certainly if you've been diagnosed, we take the steering wheel. It doesn't mean we don't have the Navman or Serial maps or whatever it is. They're still on in the background, but we get to choose if we follow those directions or not. So
Mm.
we're squarely at the wheel. We're making the choice. Do I want to turn right here, turn left, go straight ahead? Am I taking the second exit at that roundabout? Sort of thing. That's really taking our responsibility and taking our choices back. So, I love so much that
Mm.
that metaphor that you were talking about. So I want to ask you. So now we're talking about, this is 11 years later.
Mm.
how do you, uh, I guess, push away fear and just really stand in the trust that uh, your body is a healing machine?
Yeah. Great question because this is I'm going to be 60 this year. So obviously, um, as we get older, your body, eventually we all die. So I think with that has the wisdom of your body has amazing healing powers, and in the same breath, as we get older, we just have to be more mindful, I feel, of what we do, knowing that eventually we all will die, and when we go, we go. So I just think that I think for me is having things more in balance than they were. So in my early 20s, 30s, it was definitely more grind. It was climbing up the corporate ladder until I looked around halfway up and I thought like quite a lot of people are either, um, not in good shape, mentally or physically, and in burnout. So got off that corporate ladder, went sideways and started building a different life that suits Sue rather than somebody else's expectation. And that's what I'm saying is that's what happened to me. Other people is different. So I feel that we can, when we're personally, and what I've experienced with the people that I teach is that when we're in a calmer state, our vagus nerve is more settled and we're more aligned. Our thinking is better, it's more clear, it's more concise, and we can take actions accordingly. The other analogy I like to say is we are all, and you mentioned it as well, Margit, is that we're all on different journeys. So if you look at it as you are the actor of your own life, so you're the main character, you're the lead character of your life. So it ties in beautifully with that, taking the steering wheel of your life. You are the main character. So I heard this beautiful question recently on another podcast that it said, if people were watching a film of you in your life right now, what would they be screaming out at you is, no, there's a ghost behind you, or no, like, they're just going to be killed, or no, do this, go, like, leave that relationship, go, quit your job, start that business, whatever it is. What are they screaming at you if they were looking at your life right now? And I love that question. It really, yeah, because sometimes when you're actually in your life, you're actually in the jar of the contents that you can't see. But when you hop out of the jar, you actually can see clearly. Mm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I actually feel like that's really pertinent to me personally right now. That with
Mm.
everything that's gone on in my life in the last sort of 15 months or so, I think it really is true. We get very caught up in our story and what's going on and what our mind tells us, and to be able to take that step back and even just have a look at your life on a screen.
Mm.
But I truly love that idea of, yeah, looking at it as though you were on a screen, and what is the crowd shouting to you? So I feel like I could talk to you for hours, seriously. I'm blown away every time we kinda talk. I'm just and I'm so grateful that you're here. I like to finish each of my episodes with these, what I call popcorn questions, and they're
Yeah.
just kind of short answer. Well, they're supposed to be. Let's see what happens with it. I just wanna fire them away at you,
Yeah.
and see what comes out. So, what brings you most alive right now?
What brings me most alive right now? It would be my husband Rod, Molly the cat, and teaching yoga and the community that we've all created through the chair yoga. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that, and I just saw that smile when you talked about Molly the cat and Rod. What would your bravest self say to you about this chapter of your life now?
Oh, go for it. Uh, yeah, go for it. Trust. Have the faith. You're all going to be okay.
I love that. What's something small but powerful that helps you feel more like yourself?
Powerful. I think for me, just being in nature, just being surrounded by nature
Mm.
and know that I'm, part of this amazing planet that we live on and it's not separate. So if I'm in nature, I kind of feel more at one, at peace.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that's one of mine as well. And my last question, if you could gift every midlife woman one reminder, what would it be?
You are worthy to be you. You're here for a reason. You're a miracle just being here. Take your foot off the brake and go for it. Yeah.
I love that. It's almost making me cry. Just the way that you said that, I know how heartfelt and real that is coming from you. And thank you. I picked up on that, and I hope that those of you who are
Yeah.
listening do as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story. I know as you're moving forward, you're not looking backwards normally, and I think there's so much wisdom that you have to share in your story. So I'm very, very grateful that you're here. For those of you who have again fallen in love with Sue the way I have, we will have her contact details in the show notes, her website, and hopefully soon we'll get to see some of those yoga classes up online so that we can all share in them with you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, they are. There's a few classes on YouTube channel. So I know that you put all the links below in the show notes. So yeah.
Absolutely, I will. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Sue.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Midlife Unfiltered. I hope today sparked something meaningful and reminded you of what's possible in this season of life. If this episode lifted you up, share it with someone who could use the reminder. Subscribing will make sure that you're notified when a new episode is released, and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify also helps more people discover our little corner of midlife truth-telling. You can always reach out through Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I love hearing from women who are walking this path with me. Interested in working with me? You'll find everything you need at margitcruise.com. And remember, midlife isn't an ending. It's your invitation to feel more alive than ever. See you next week. And now the legal stuff. The content in this podcast is provided for general information and inspiration only. It does not constitute medical, legal, or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for independent professional care. Margit Cruz is not a registered health professional. You are responsible for your own choices and outcomes and should always seek advice from an appropriately qualified professional.